Deep inside the old village of Ibarra, there stood a tree that no one dared to touch. It loomed at the edge of a bustling market square, its bark blackened, and with a deep, hollow scar running through its center. But somehow, it was still alive. The elders would always warn, never stand beneath it after sunset. For whatever you whisper there, the tree remembers. Of course, children grew up here in this story, and like most warnings, passed down through generations. It eventually became a game. They dare each other to run around its massive trunk or to shout their names into the dark hollow. And sometimes, if you listened very, very closely, you could hear the tree whisper those names right back. Now, among the villagers lived a wealthy trader named He was a man with gold rings on his fingers and a river of lies on his tongue. He had built his fortune by cheating everyone he met using fake weights at the market, inventing false debts, and dealing in stolen goods. But no one could ever prove it. It was too clever, too slick. One evening, while pretending to browse the stalls, Sefu overheard the elders talking. They spoke of the tree. They said it could hide any secret. All you had to do was whisper your deepest sin into its hollow before midnight, and the tree would swallow it, making it vanish forever. That night, as Sefu lay in his bed, greed whispered louder than fear. He crept out of his home and made his way to the market square. The moon hung above him like a single, judging eye. The wind was unnervingly still, the air heavy and too quiet. He placed his hands on the rough, ancient bark, leaning close to the hollow. He whispered his truth into the darkness. I have stolen from my brothers. I have betrayed them all. Let no one ever know. The tree let out a low, groaning creak. For just a moment, the hollow glowed with a faint, angry red light, and then it went dark. Sefu pulled back, a smug smile spreading across his face. He turned and walked away, feeling lighter than he had in years. The very next morning, his business rivals mysteriously fell sick. The debts he owed seemed to disappear from memory. Business boomed. It seemed the tree had kept its promise and truly swallowed his secrets. Weeks turned into months, but soon, strange things began to happen. When Sefu walked through the market, people would turn away from him not out of respect, but with a flicker of fear in their eyes. They started saying that when he passed by, they could hear faint, sibilant whispering, even though his lips never moved. Then, the whispers followed him home. At night, he began to hear his own voice echoing from the walls of his house. I have stolen. I have betrayed them all. He burned sage to cleanse the air. He prayed to the ancestors. He drank palm wine until he passed out, hoping to drown the sound. But the whispering never stopped. It was always there, just at the edge of his hearing. One night, driven to the brink of madness, he screamed into the empty room, "What do you want from me?" And a voice answered, but it didn't come from the room. It came from inside his own chest. Tell the truth, or I will. The next morning, Sefu burst into the marketplace, his hair wild, his eyes sunken and hollow. He ran straight to the whispering tree, and standing beneath its gnarled branches, he screamed his crimes for all to hear. I cheated you all. Every single coin, every measure of granite. The villagers stared, frozen in shock. As his confession poured out, the tree began to move. Its branches twisted and groaned, the sound like old bones cracking. And then, from its deep, dark hollow, came a chorus of whispers. Dozens, then hundreds of voices, all repeating his confession in a terrifying, perfect rhythm. He cheated, he lied, he betrayed. The sound grew louder and louder, a whirlwind of accusation, until Sefu collapsed to his knees, clamping his hands over his ears. And then, just as suddenly, there was silence when the villagers dared to look again. Sefu was gone. All that remained were his gold rings, lying at the base of the tree, already half buried in its grasping roots. From that day on, no one ever approached the whispering tree again. The elders built a fence around it, forbidding anyone from going near. But sometimes, when the wind is just right, it still carries whispers through the village, the echoes of old secrets, old sins, things that were never meant to be said aloud. They say that if you stand too close, the tree might just whisper your name too, because no secret stays buried forever. What we hide in the darkness, the earth will one day find a way to speak out loud. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more Tales from the Shadows.